Congressman Adam Schiff of California is the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. He's here with me right now. What's your reaction to this tweet from the President-elect Trump this morning? If Russia or some other entity was hacking, why did the White House wait so long to act? Why did they only complain after Hillary lost?
We have to go through some real verbal and mental gymnastics to make a statement like that, which on the one hand blames the Obama administration for not saying so earlier or more forcefully, even though they did say so. But at the same time, the President-elect continues to deny the Russians were involved. I don't know how you can both blame the President and still deny the Russians are involved. So, frankly, it's not something I think you could say with a straight face, but if he tweets it, he doesn't have to say it with a straight face.
What role, based on everything you know, did Vladimir Putin himself play in this effort, this infiltration, if you will, the hacking of the DNC, John Podesta, the chairman of the Clinton campaign, and others?
Well, as you know, Wolf, in October, the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Homeland Security issued a statement where they not only said that Russia was hacking institutions and U.S. persons to interfere with the election, but due to the scope and the sensitivity of what the Russians were doing, this had to come from the senior-most levels of the Russian government. Just looking at that statement and knowing, as Ambassador McFaul has pointed out, just how hierarchic the Russian government is. I mean, there's only one decision maker, and that is Putin. To me, just on the basis of that very circumstantial evidence, it's pretty clear that something of this magnitude had to go to the very top. You can't imagine here in this country, for example, the president engaging in a cyber attack and meddling in a foreign country, or the U.S. doing it without the president's knowledge. We're an even more dispersed system of checks and balances here. In Russia, that would be even more unthinkable.
But is it just circumstantial evidence, or is it a direct evidence? I know you don't want to release classified sources and methods, information like that, but based on what you know, is it more than just circumstantial?
All I can speak to, Wolf, is what the director has said very publicly in October, and what we know about how the Russian government operates. That's unfortunately all I can discuss.
The whole notion right now, what to do about this, is a huge debate. And I'm sure he's not asking you, but if the President-elect were to ask you, Congressman, what should we do about it, what would you say?
Well, I would say we ought to be working with our partners in Europe to sanction the Russians for what they've done.
Additional sanctions.
Additional sanctions, absolutely, because they'll do it again. And we should look at clandestine steps that we can take to shoot a shot across the bow, to let Putin know that there's a cost for this kind of meddling. Donald Trump was clearly the beneficiary. I know he doesn't want to recognize that in the campaign. But he may be the target in the future. If he does cross Putin, as inevitably he'll have to, because the Russians have very different interests than we do, there's nothing that's going to stop the Russians from dumping things that are harmful to Donald Trump. So he's got to realize that's a very real prospect. He ought to deal with it. He ought to work on establishing a deterrent. He needs to work on reestablishing, I think, faith in the intelligence community. They're going to work for him. They're going to need to know that they can confide in him the truth and that he'll be open to it. All of these things are going to be vital to his success.
Congressman Schiff, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Wolf.